A bad turn of events. The bridge of Karvan's flagship, the largest and most formidable of the Drac behemoths, was bathed in a cold, bluish glow, the dim light reflecting off the sharp angles of his scaled features. The vastness of space stretched endlessly beyond the thick, reinforced viewport, the 14 other behemoths in his fleet floating silently in formation around him, each one a monolith of power and destruction. Karvan stood at the center of the bridge, his posture commanding, his eyes fixed on the array of holographic displays that hovered around him. His claws tapped rhythmically against the console, a subtle yet telling sign of his growing impatience. The Drac Dominion had always thrived on its ability to intimidate and dominate, but recent events had shaken even his considerable confidence. The sudden beep of an incoming transmission broke the tense silence. Karvan's sharp eyes flicked toward the communication console as the transmission was accepted. The screen flickered to life, revealing the panicked face of a Drac officer aboard the lone behemoth that had been left behind for repairs near Akiria.
"Commander Karvan!"
The officer's voice crackled through the static, his scales glistening with sweat, fear evident in his wide reptilian eyes.
"We're under attack! Federation and Helian forces!"
The transmission was abruptly cut off, the screen filled with static before going dark. Karvan's claws stilled, his gaze lingering on the blank screen as the implications of what had just occurred settled into his mind. The lone behemoth was gone, destroyed in a surprise attack by the Federation and their new allies, the Helians. For a long moment, Karvan stood motionless, processing the loss. It wasn't just the destruction of a single ship, one of their mighty behemoths no less, that gnawed at him, but the realization that this was a turning point in the war. The Helians had always been a formidable power, their technology advanced, their tactics precise. But now, fully allied with the Federation, they represented a new and dangerous escalation in the conflict. Karvan's respect for Zorvan's strategic mind was well-founded, though it did nothing to lessen the anger now burning within him. This was clearly a well-executed strike, designed not just to destroy a ship, but to send a message. The Federation and the Helians were no longer disparate forces, easily divided and conquered. Together, they were a united front, a potent threat to the Drac Dominion's dominance over the galaxy. He could almost picture Zorvan, the Federation's most cunning and formidable commander, standing on the bridge of his own flagship, calmly orchestrating the attack that had just cost Karvan one of his most powerful assets. The thought of it made his blood boil, but Karvan was not one to let anger cloud his judgment. This new development required a calculated response. Karvan straightened, his decision already forming in his mind. He couldn't afford to act rashly, not now, when the stakes were higher than ever. He tapped a command into the console, summoning the commanders of the remaining 14 behemoths to a secure holoconference. The response was immediate, and within moments the dimly lit chamber was filled with the flickering images of the other Drac commanders, their expressions a mix of shock and barely contained fury. "Commanders," Karvan began, his voice cold and controlled, a stark contrast to the tension in the air. "We have suffered a loss. The lone behemoth we left behind for repairs near Akiria has been destroyed. The attack was executed by a combined force of Federation and Helian ships." A murmur of anger rippled through the group, but Karvan silenced it with a sharp glance. "This is not just a tactical setback. This is a significant shift in the balance of power. The Helians have officially allied with the Federation. Together, they now pose a considerable threat to our dominance." One of the commanders, his scales a deep, blood red, leaned forward, his voice a low growl. "We should strike back immediately, launch a full-scale assault on the Federation's core worlds, break their spirit before they have a chance to strengthen this alliance further." Karvan considered the suggestion, but he had already decided on a different course of action. He held up a clawed hand, silencing the room. "No. A direct assault on their core worlds would be unwise. We would spread ourselves too thin, and the Federation would likely be prepared for such an attack. No, we must strike where it will hurt them most, both strategically and psychologically." He paused, allowing the tension to build before continuing, his voice taking on a deadly calm. "We will retake Orinthia." The reaction from the other commanders was immediate, a mix of surprise and approval. Carvin's eyes narrowed as he outlined his plan. Orinthia is more than just a strategic location. It is a symbol of Federation resistance. Our defeat there was a blow to our reputation, but it also made them overconfident. They believe they have secured the planet, that they have turned the tide of this war. We will show them how wrong they are. One of the commanders, his voice laced with skepticism, spoke up. But General Zorvan himself is stationed at Akiria, along with the Helian cruisers. What if they return to defend Orinthia? Carvin's lips curled into a predatory smile. Zorvan is a formidable foe, but even he will not expect us to strike so soon, and even if he does return, he will find that we are prepared for him. The weapon we tested on the lone behemoth has been fully integrated into our fleet. Against 15 behemoths, fully armed and coordinating their attack, even Zorvan will fall. The room fell silent as the commanders absorbed Carvin's words. Slowly, one by one, they nodded in agreement. The plan was risky, but it was also their best chance to regain the upper hand in this war. "Set course for Orinthia," Carvin ordered, his voice brooking no argument. "We will show the Federation and their Helian allies the true power of the Drac Dominion." As the command was relayed and the behemoths adjusted their course, Carvin allowed himself a moment of satisfaction. The Helians and the Federation had won a battle, but the war was far from over. And soon they would learn that the Drac Dominion was not to be trifled with. The 15 behemoths surged forward as one, their engines roaring to life, the void of space swallowed by the darkness of their collective power. The course was set, and the destination was clear. Orinthia. The Galactic Council Chamber. The Galactic Council Chamber was a grand display of the galaxy's diverse civilizations, with Ambassador Solane standing at the center. The room was circular, symbolizing the unity of the star systems that had come together in this coalition. The walls were adorned with intricate carvings and symbols from countless civilizations, silently reflecting the important discussions and decisions made within these walls. Above, a high domed ceiling loomed, studded with tiny, shimmering lights that mimicked the stars of the galaxy, reminding everyone of the vastness they sought to govern and protect. The room's soft lighting was punctuated by the sharp, bluish glow of floating holographic displays, presenting real-time data, strategic maps, and the latest reports from the front lines. These visuals moved constantly, mirroring the ever-changing nature of the galactic conflict. Seated around Solane in a semicircle were the representatives of the Galactic Council, each at their designated stations. They hailed from every corner of the galaxy, their appearances as varied as the worlds they represented. Some had lithe, graceful forms, their skin tones ranging from deep blues to pale silvers, reflecting their origins in low-gravity environments. Others were more robust, their armor-like exoskeletons a sign of their origins on harsher, more challenging planets. Each representative wore the traditional attire of their people, adding a vibrant mix of colors and designs to the room's solemn atmosphere. Despite their differences, a shared look was etched across their faces, a mix of curiosity, concern, and a firm resolve to face the growing darkness that threatened them all. Their eyes were fixed on Solane, waiting for him to speak and provide the latest update on the dire situation they faced. The air was heavy with anticipation, the future of the galaxy hanging in the balance. As Solane stood before them, he felt the weight of the moment. This was no ordinary council meeting. The decisions made here would ripple across the stars, affecting the course of the war and the fate of countless lives. He took a deep breath, preparing to deliver the most critical briefing of his career, aware that every word he spoke would be scrutinized and used to shape the strategies of the galaxy's most powerful civilizations. The chamber was silent, except for the faint hum of the holographic displays. Solane knew that the eyes of the council were not the only ones upon him. Beyond this room, entire worlds waited anxiously for news, for hope, for a sign that the tide of war could be turned. The task before him was daunting, but Solane was determined. He had faced the weight of responsibility many times before, but never on this scale. Today, he would ensure that the Council understood the full magnitude of the threat they faced and the importance of unity in the face of overwhelming odds. Ambassador Solane began his address to the Galactic Council with a steady tone, fully aware of the weight his words carried. The council chamber was silent, with all eyes fixed on him, awaiting the latest news from the front lines of the war that had consumed their galaxy. "Esteemed members of the Galactic Council," Solane began, his voice firm but carrying an underlying urgency. "I stand before you today to provide an update on the escalating conflict with the Drac Dominion. The threat we face is unlike any we have encountered in our history, and the seriousness of the situation demands our full attention and unwavering resolve." He paused, allowing his words to sink in, the tension in the room almost tangible. "Just days ago, we faced a critical engagement at Orinthia, a system that has become a symbol of resistance against the Drac's relentless advance. The battle was fierce and the losses were heavy. Our forces, led by General Zorvan, fought bravely to defend the planet, knowing that the fall of Orinthia would be a devastating blow to our morale and strategic position in this war." As Solane spoke, the holographic displays around the chamber shifted to show the aftermath of the battle. Images of burning ships, debris fields, and the smoldering surface of Orinthia filled the air, a stark reminder of the cost of war. The Drac launched a full-scale assault on the planet, deploying their behemoth-class warships with a ferocity we have rarely seen. Despite their overwhelming firepower, General Zorvan and his fleet managed to inflict significant damage on the Drac forces. One of their behemoths was severely crippled, forcing the Drac to retreat from the system. He allowed a moment for the council members to absorb this victory, however costly it might have been. "But this victory came at a great cost. We lost several Federation ships in the encounter, brave men and women who gave their lives to protect Orinthia. Their sacrifice must not be in vain. The strategic importance of Orinthia cannot be overstated. It stands as a beacon of resistance, a rallying point for our forces and our allies. We must ensure it remains in our hands, for if it falls, the message to the galaxy would be clear. The Drac are unstoppable." The holographic images shifted once more, this time showing the joint operation led by General Zorvan and the Helian Collective. Solane's voice grew more intense as he recounted the details. "In a separate operation, our forces, in collaboration with our Helian allies, successfully intercepted and destroyed a lone Drac behemoth that had been left behind for repairs. This operation was a critical success, not just because we eliminated a significant threat, but because it provided us with valuable insights into the Drac's new weaponry. The display highlighted the Drac's new weapon, a formidable energy-based system that had the potential to turn the tide of battle in the Drac's favor if left unchecked. The weapon we encountered is unlike anything we've seen before. It has the ability to disrupt our ship's systems on a fundamental level, rendering even our most advanced defenses vulnerable. However, in destroying the behemoth, we managed to gather crucial data on this weapon, data that our scientists and engineers are now analyzing in the hope of developing countermeasures." Solane's tone shifted to one of cautious optimism. "While the destruction of this behemoth was a significant achievement, I must caution the Council. This victory is only a temporary setback for the Drac. We have every reason to believe they will return, likely in greater numbers and with even more devastating force. The battle we won was but one in a much larger war, and the Drac are not a foe that will be easily deterred." He let his words hang in the air, the reality of the situation pressing down on everyone in the chamber. "We must remain vigilant. Our defenses must be strengthened, our alliances solidified, and our resolve unshakable. The Drac Dominion is a threat to every star system represented here, and only through unity and decisive action can we hope to prevail against them." The council members exchanged grave looks, fully comprehending the enormity of the challenges ahead. Solane's update had made it clear. The war was far from over, and the hardest battles were yet to come. But in the faces of those around him, Solane saw the determination that would be needed to see this conflict through to its end. They had won a victory, but the war for the galaxy's future was just beginning. Ambassador Solane transitioned to the next point, focusing on the recent developments involving Commander Ilara Vance. "Council members, I am pleased to report that Commander Ilara Vance has successfully arrived at Omega Base, the headquarters of the Rebel Alliance. Her fleet, which includes 3 of the Federation's most powerful battleships, is now fully integrated with the Rebel forces." He continued, This integration significantly bolsters the defense capabilities of Omega Base and represents a crucial step in our alliance with the rebel forces. By uniting our strength with theirs, we have created a more formidable front against the Drac Dominion. The strategic importance of this alliance cannot be overstated. As the Drac threat continues to grow, maintaining and strengthening our relationship with the rebels is essential. Together, we stand a better chance of not only holding our ground, but also pushing back against the Drac's advances. Solene's tone was resolute as he concluded, "In this critical time, cooperation and unity are our greatest assets. The successful arrival of Commander Vance and her fleet at Omega Base is a significant achievement, and we must continue to build on this foundation as we move forward in our fight against the Drac." Ambassador Solane, after covering the current military situation, shifted the focus of his briefing to a more profound revelation. The council members, who had been absorbed in the immediate tactical discussions, now leaned in with renewed interest as Solane prepared to discuss the historical context of the Drac Dominion, a history that had recently come to light through ancient crystals discovered on Akiria. "Ladies and gentlemen of the council," Solane began, his voice steady, "what I am about to share with you sheds new light on the Drac threat we face today. Through the diligent work of our researchers, led by Dr. Kenson and Dr. Malik, we have uncovered startling information about the Drac's past, information that fundamentally alters our understanding of this formidable enemy." Solane paused, allowing the weight of his words to settle before continuing. "The Drac were not always the ruthless conquerors we know them as today. Thousands of years ago, they were members of a coalition known as the Stellar Accord. This accord was a coalition of advanced civilizations united by a common goal to maintain peace and prosperity across the galaxy. The Drac, once a noble and respected race, played a significant role in this alliance." As the council members absorbed this unexpected revelation, Solane moved on to the darker side of the Drac's history. However, within Drac society, a faction emerged that would alter the course of their civilization forever. This group, known as the Chosen Ascendants, preached a doctrine of Drac supremacy. They believed that their race was destined to rule the galaxy, and that peace and cooperation were weaknesses to be exploited. Solane's tone grew more somber as he continued. "Over time, this radical ideology took hold, corrupting the Drac from within. The Ascendants gained power, and their doctrine of galactic dominance became the driving force behind the Drac's actions. The once honorable members of the Stellar Accord transformed into the empire we now face, a civilization bent on conquest, driven by a perverted vision of their own destiny." He looked around the chamber, seeing the impact of his words on the faces of the council members. "This historical context is crucial for us to understand. The Drac are not simply a force of evil. They are a civilization that has lost its way. They are driven by a deep-seated belief in their right to rule, a belief that has led them down a path of destruction." Solane concluded this portion of his briefing with a thoughtful tone. "This revelation does not diminish the threat they pose, but it does remind us that the Drac were once capable of greatness. As we continue our struggle against them, we must remember that our fight is not just against an enemy, but against the twisted remnants of a once noble civilization." As Ambassador Solane concluded his presentation, the chamber buzzed with hushed murmurs and whispered exchanges among the council members. The revelations about the Drac's past, combined with the current strategic updates, had clearly sparked a mix of curiosity, concern, and urgency among the representatives. It wasn't long before one of the senior council members, a stern-faced diplomat from the Hadron Star Cluster, raised his hand, signaling the beginning of a round of questions. "Ambassador Solane," the councilman began, his voice carrying a hint of skepticism, "while the historical context you've provided is enlightening, our immediate concern lies with the Drac's current capabilities. The Federation has encountered a new weapon, and yet we have limited information about it. Can you elaborate on what steps are being taken to counter this threat? Are our forces adequately prepared to face it in battle?" Solane nodded, fully anticipating such a question. "Councilman Vargas, I understand your concern. The weapon deployed by the Drac during the recent battle was indeed formidable, an energy beam capable of bypassing our conventional shielding and delivering catastrophic damage. Our scientists and engineers, both within the Federation and in collaboration with the Helian Collective, are working around the clock to develop effective countermeasures. We've identified a critical vulnerability in the weapon's recharge time, which we believe can be exploited in future engagements. Vargas didn't seem entirely satisfied, but nodded for the time being. Another council member, a tall woman with silver hair representing the Zardine Republic, leaned forward. Ambassador, you mentioned the alliance with the rebel forces and Commander Vance's successful arrival at Omega Base. However, the rebel alliance has suffered significant losses, including the destruction of Alpha Point. How confident are you in their readiness to contribute effectively to our combined efforts against the Drac? Selene met her gaze with calm assurance. Councilwoman Nara, the loss of Alpha Point was indeed a devastating blow to the rebel alliance, both strategically and morally. However, under the leadership of Prince Arlon, the rebels have regrouped at Omega Base. Commander Vance's arrival with 3 of the Federation's largest battleships has significantly bolstered their defenses. Moreover, our joint operations and training exercises with the rebel forces have shown great promise. The rebels are resilient, and with the Federation's support, they are becoming an increasingly formidable force. Councilwoman Nara seemed partially reassured, but pressed further. And what of the traitor within their ranks? How can we trust an alliance when there is a risk of internal sabotage? Selene's expression remained serious as he addressed the concern. The matter of the traitor is being handled with the utmost priority. The rebels, under Prince Arlon's command, are conducting thorough investigations to root out the saboteur. Additionally, Federation intelligence is working closely with them to ensure that all security protocols are enhanced. While the presence of a traitor is concerning, it has not weakened the overall integrity of our alliance. On the contrary, it has made us more vigilant and cautious in our operations. A ripple of acknowledgement passed through the council as they digested this information. However, the questioning did not cease. Another representative, this time from the Oran Commonwealth, rose to speak. Ambassador Selene, while we appreciate the updates, there is a growing concern among some of us regarding the secrecy surrounding the Federation's military strategies. We are facing an existential threat, and yet many details remain shrouded in mystery. How can we fully support these efforts when we are not privy to the full scope of the Federation's plans? Selene took a moment to consider his response. He understood the need for transparency, but was also acutely aware of the delicate balance between sharing information and maintaining operational security. Representative Kale, he began, I assure you that the Federation values the trust and support of this council. However, we are also acutely aware of the Drac's capabilities in intelligence gathering. There are details of our military strategies that, if disclosed prematurely, could compromise the effectiveness of our operations and endanger lives. I can assure you that every decision is made with the utmost consideration for the security and well-being of our allies. While I understand the desire for more information, some aspects must remain classified to protect the integrity of our efforts. Kale's expression was unreadable, but he nodded, acknowledging the complexities involved. The room remained tense, the council members clearly wrestling with the balance between trust and the need for secrecy. Finally, a voice broke the tension, belonging to a veteran council member from the Veridan Expanse. Ambassador, you've painted a grim picture, but also one of hope. The alliances we've forged, the victories we've achieved, they're all significant. But we need to know, what is the Federation's long-term plan? How do we intend to finally put an end to the Drac threat once and for all? Selene straightened, understanding the importance of this question. Our long-term strategy, Councilman Ralos, is multifaceted. First and foremost, we aim to bolster our alliances, integrating our forces with those of the rebels and the Helians to create a unified front. We are also actively pursuing technological advancements to counter the Drac's new weaponry, and we are investing in intelligence operations to uncover any further plans the Drac might have. Lastly, we are not ruling out the possibility of a diplomatic resolution, though the current stance of the Drac makes this unlikely. Ultimately, our goal is to push back the Drac forces, reclaim key territories, and dismantle their command structure. This will require time, resources, and most importantly, the unwavering commitment of all our allies. The council members seemed to absorb this information with a renewed sense of purpose. While there were still unanswered questions and concerns, Solaine's responses had provided them with a clearer understanding of the situation and the Federation's resolve. As the session drew to a close, Solaine could see that while the path ahead would be fraught with challenges, there was a shared determination in the room. The council, though wary and cautious, remained committed to the cause. With their support, and the strength of the alliances being forged, there was hope that the tide could be turned in this long and arduous war against the Drac.